Tom Clues from the Health Tech Invest podcast. I've got an exciting guest for you all today. He is Germany's top 40 under 40, and his name is Philipp Wehn, and he is the head of go-to-market at Siemens Lighting. Great to have you on the podcast, Philipp. How are you today?
Thomas, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here. I'm doing absolutely amazing. Looking forward to the next hour and looking forward to discussing a couple of these pretty interesting topics.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about you and digging in on the personal side as well. I've been excited about this podcast for quite some time. So why don't you just to kick us off, why don't you orient yourself to the listeners? Tell us about Philipp Wehn and how you got to where you're at now.
Absolutely. So thanks for dialing in, first of all. My name is Philipp. I'm originally from Germany, as you can hear. I currently live in Silicon Valley. Thomas and I actually work in the same building. I'm a big fan of technology, especially technology with purpose. I was raised in a small village in Bavaria, and it has always been my dream to be in Silicon Valley and work on technology and solutions that change the future to a better. So that's really me. On a professional side, my background is in international business. I was in management consulting. I did a top talent program with friends in Germany. And then about 2.5 years ago, I came to Siemens and lighted a smart building IoT startup that got acquired by Siemens. And there we launched a pretty advanced machine learning product for the healthcare environment, an RTLS solution, real-time location services, that accelerates the patient experience, that accelerates also the client, the nurse and the staff safety and efficiency. And I'm just a big fan of health, to be very honest. I think this is why we're talking today. I love tech. I love health. My professional world has to do a lot with health and with healthcare technologies. But I'm also on a personal level, if you watch this video, I have 2 wearables on. I think I would put any sensor in my body to get more insights. So yeah, that's me. I'm looking forward to diving into some of the topics that you want to discuss today, Thomas.
Yeah, so interesting story there about your background. Working as an entrepreneur at a startup is very different than working at a large corporation. And it sounds like you made that transition through M&A. I think that's quite a change. Can you talk a little bit about the changes that you felt by, being out in the wild and then getting acquired by Siemens?
Yeah, absolutely. I know both worlds by now. As I said, I was with Siemens before. I was with Carney, management consulting company in between. And I have to say I came to Enlighted after the acquisition. But still, it was very close after the acquisition. And we were in the middle of getting integrated into the company, of getting up and running on all the software tools and the processes of such a big company. I think with such an acquisition, of course, there comes risk. But if it's done the right way, there is a lot of potential to have the best of both worlds, right? We are still operating as a standalone company, even though we're 100% owned. That gives us a lot of speed in the market to be customer centric. But then at the same time, Siemens and our business unit has a global representation. We have a global sales force being in touch with some of the biggest clients you can imagine. So being acquired by such a corporation opens up this world for a startup. Is it easy to create the synergies with such a sales team? Absolutely not. It is hard work to convince people who have been selling a certain product for the last 5 to 10 years. And now you have this fancy new company in the portfolio that you can also sell. There's always a little bit of hesitance. But I would say that is really a major pro of this, of an acquisition. Some drawbacks, to be very honest, especially when you have people who were in a startup from day one. The buying company brings in a lot of processes and a lot of demands, especially on data privacy, cybersecurity, things that startups, of course, take care of, but maybe not in the same dimension as a big corporation. And I think getting used to that, if people were part of the startup since the foundation, I think that has been a change. But yeah, the Siemens processes make a lot of sense. So I think we have done a really good job becoming part of the Siemens family.
So talking about the Siemens family and some of the themes you just touched on, a lot of large conglomerates think that in order for an acquisition to go well, the company you're acquiring has to fit the mold, right? And very oftentimes, and hopefully less frequently than often, it's like it's like fitting a square peg into a round hole. Sometimes it doesn't work, and this is why some acquisitions fail and all that. But help me understand, like, what in your mind, what makes an acquisition a successful one, right? In the context of, a lot of entrepreneurs out there are looking for an exit. That's what any entrepreneur would want. And some entrepreneurs want to jump off to the next thing. What do you think a successful acquisition looks like?
Yeah. Maybe as a side information there, I wrote my master's thesis with SAP, the German software.
Yeah.
And
they're a monster. They're huge.
wrote about the topic buy versus partner in M&A. And we also won the German M&A award with that topic. So the questions that you're asking, they're very close to my heart. So I appreciate it. And by the way, to all the listeners, we didn't talk about this before. This just happened. But what I've learned is an acquisition, especially when an extremely large corporation buys a small company that might not be scaling yet, might not have crossed the chasm, as we say, right? Initial traction, first customers, good revenue growth, but not a fully functioning company, right? Valuation still a multiple of revenue. I think it is crucial that if you look at the portfolio of the buying company, that the portfolio of the target is a logical extension of that portfolio, so that you can easily plug it into your sales force. And let's talk B2B in this situation. You have a B2B seller, and ideally the new portfolio is sold to that same buying persona in that company. I would say if you look at the sales side, that is one of the most important things to consider, is that the same sellers can sell this new product to the same person. If that's not the case, they have to create a completely new representation in the market. They have to create a new pipeline. So the synergies really don't exist on the sales side. On the product and technology side, I think it's crucial that the target that gets acquired enables or extends the technology and the product of the buying company. So in our case, the Enlighted Sensor Network, the founders always had the vision to create a neural network for the building. And that comes through the sensors that are in the light. Siemens Smart Infrastructure has building management systems and now has room automation, has Building X, which is our digital platform to manage global real estate portfolios. These products get better with more data from every single floor in the building. So buying Enlighted really was a way to collect data that the Siemens products needed to become even better. That's the kind of logical extension of a portfolio that I'm talking about in an acquisition. So I would say things, they're crucial. We can dive into cultural fit and do the founders want to stay on board and all those things. But for commercial success, I would say the two that I mentioned are really crucial.
Yeah, so it's like, channel synergy or channel alignment, and then product alignment. I guess when you think about successful M&A, successful exit, depending on what side of the equation you're on, what's more important? Alignment with the channel or alignment with the product side, so that you can enhance the product for a given channel?
Well, to be very honest, I would say alignment with the channel, because that is, especially
That's
when
where
you
the money flows. Yeah.
That's where the immediate synergy comes from. The hockey stick curve that you put on a business case in M&A, it happens through the sales force. And if you cannot leverage the sales force and the contacts that the buying company has, the product and the technology enhancement can be amazing. But if there's nobody who can sell it in an easy way, you struggle to create the synergies and the revenue.
Very cool. Very cool. So I want to keep riffing off your the acquisition here because that's actually something novel that I learned about you on this call. We've had multiple touch points, but I didn't realize you got to Siemens through the acquisition, which is super cool what I think everybody's rooting for in Silicon Valley at the end of the day. What was sort of the impetus for the acquisition? Was your company in a process to seek acquirers, or was there some type of partnership that led to the acquisition?
Just to make it clear, I said it before. I came to this company after the acquisition.
Oh, got it. Okay, so the
Right?
company got acquired and you got placed into this role.
Correct. I came
Got
to
it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
say 1 years post acquisition or 2 years post acquisition. So I can talk about anything PMI.
Got
But
it.
that
So you are on the front line of this PMI. So this acquisition happened 2 years ago, and you're in the thick of it essentially, correct?
correct. But anything pre, right? Why did this company make sense? Where was the company at that point? Due diligence. I wasn't involved.
Got it. I understand. Got it. So what made you because you're up for a challenge, right? I think that's something that I've gotten to know about you. You challenged yourself. You came to Silicon Valley a few years ago, and that clearly you clearly had a goal and you followed through on it. Tell us a little bit about that and kind of how you got to your current gig. What made you want to take this challenge on over some of the other things you've got going on at Siemens?
Yeah. I don't know if you or the listeners know the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Many people do. But
Yes.
there's this new
That's a great story. Yeah. Great guy.
Netflix. Strongly recommend to watch it. But he had that moment, small village in Austria, right? I'm from a small village in Bavaria, and
Cool.
he saw this magazine of the Mr. Olympia in Munich and the world of America, the American dream. And for me, that point happened 10 years ago when I was walking my dog in Bavaria and I was listening to an audiobook called Silicon Valley, What Comes to Us from the Most Powerful Valley in the World.
Hmm.
And while I was listening to this, I was just blown away. It was a completely new world that was unfolding in my head. I've never been to the US at that point. I've never been to California or to the San Francisco Bay Area. But just the vision of people helping out each other, growing together, connecting, networking, and working on solutions that change the world, that just immediately clicked with me. And I made it my vision and my dream to come over here and do that one day. So every single professional choice I made, whether it was during university or in my early years in my career, they were targeted towards being here one day. And when the offer came, when I was in management consulting, the offer came from Siemens and Lighted. That was a bullseye for me, but also for the company, because it combined my knowledge I had on strategy work, but then it also brought me into the world of building software products from the business side and launching them on a global level. So yeah, my wife and I made the decision end of 2021 to pack our bags and move over here. And now it has been over 2 years. We love every single day of it. And I have to say, many people internationally say Silicon Valley is dead. Even like, especially before the AI hype, that Silicon Valley is dead. It's not. There are other ecosystems in the world that are slowly growing. But I think the power of educational systems like Stanford, Berkeley, combined with big tech and the money in this area to fund ideas to build new companies, it's
Yeah.
something I anywhere else in the world. And I'm happy to be part of it right now.
What makes Silicon Valley the place to be? Because I think I've been in Silicon Valley for a decade now. I have friends who've been here as long as I have, and they say they get used to it and they're just sort of numb to all of the sensory overload. I personally still love it and I'm energized by it. But what do you think makes this place tick?
I think Silicon Valley attracts people who want to do exactly what you do in Silicon Valley, which is you invent the future and you change the world. So you have an extremely high amount of people with the same interest. The stories where you say you go to a driving range and you talk to someone and it's a founder raising Series B,
Yeah.
or you get matched up with a person in your round of golf Like, for example, I played with a guy who was at Meta. He was the head chef of all the cuisines in the Meta campus. Super interesting person, right? But the fact that you can run into these people and that people want to come here for this specific reason, like people move to LA to become actors. So you will run into a lot of people who are in art and movie and all of these things. If you come to this place, what you get is people in tech, people in ventures who want to build the future. And when you say people are getting used to it, I actually felt that just before Christmas. But then over Christmas, I spent 5 weeks in Germany, and I'm back to day one. I'm like, when I came back, I drove down to the Bay Trail, and there's Drive, and you have the NASA on the left, and you have Google Cloud on the right. And I was like, man, everything is here. Feels like everything that is the world, whether it is OpenAI now, also Impossible Meats, like huge plant-based food company, Apple, Google. I just ordered my Apple Vision Pro. It's all right here. It's all within 60 minutes. Yeah, I think that is exactly what makes people come here, is the opportunity to have a really, really eventful and successful life. Like we met, right? We met at the charging station, and I was like, man, you drive my future dream car. I just had my Tesla Model 3 new, and I think you were there, Model X or Model S, I don't know, but
I think it
it's
was
like,
my ex. Yeah. Yeah, it was my Model X. Yeah.
yeah, and we started chatting. Now we had 2 great lunch meetings, and here we are talking about M&A and health tech.
I love that you see, I think, everybody has a different viewpoint on Silicon Valley. I think yours is so interesting because you came from, the other side of the world. Yeah. And it's comforting to hear you say that, you went home for 5 weeks, you come back and it's like, you feel that energy again. Do you feel that Silicon Valley is a collaborative culture, or are people way too competitive? What's your sort of take on it?
Clear answer. I think it's the most collaborative culture I've ever experienced.
Okay.
In one hub like this, that is the German capital, it is also known to be a give first collaboration system, where you get introduced to contacts without giving something back immediately. But over here, it's on a completely different level. I think this momentum of giving first create also a lot of the wealth and a lot of the traction that Silicon Valley has. There are so many people who just want to support young entrepreneurs and innovators because they can. Maybe they started 2 or 3 companies, they sold them, they have their own fund, they have lived their technology life, and now they just want to help the next generation grow. If you compare that to a place like Wall Street, where you want to get to the top, but you get to the top by fighting and killing other people pretty much in the business environment, I think, yes, it's a collaborative culture. And there's actually a book that a good friend recommended to me. It's called Finite and Infinite Games. And Silicon Valley for me is an infinite game. While finite games always need a winner and a loser, like any corporation, finite game. But Silicon Valley is an infinite ecosystem where money comes, grows, leaves, and comes again. And the only common thing in that infinite game is technology and progress in technology. And that is something that is never ending. We as humans and humanity always need new technology to go to Mars, to save the planet, to do all these things that we will have to do in the next 1,000 years. We will always need technological progress.
It's very interesting. Finite and Infinite Games. This is the James Carse book. Is that right? Nice. Yeah, it's it's interesting. It's lovely how that can be emblematic of Silicon Valley, whereas Wall Street is emblematic by it's a sum zero game. So there's almost like an optimism with the Silicon Valley side of things. I feel it's a place you come to and you wish for the best and you stay here and you work until you achieve your dreams. Yep. Whereas Wall Street can be a little, it's certainly sharp elbowed everywhere you go. But I think the point in Wall Street is to to win, but knowing that someone else is losing, right? So I think that's I'm with you on that. I've lived in New York in my day. I will say I found it to be very collaborative, but it's a different vibe. You know, it's a different vibe. And I think the point there is money, and the point in Silicon Valley is to hope and dream, and sure, there's equity value behind all of that, but I'm with you on the vibe in general.
I would say in other ecosystems, people want to grow their piece of the pie. And in Silicon Valley, everyone works on growing the pie.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's how, right? The if you look at the valuation of these the leading tech companies, Apple and Microsoft, that pie didn't exist 15 years ago, right? Automotive companies, they fight to get a bigger chunk of the pie, right? But then is in Silicon Valley, like the AI hype, that pie didn't exist 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. It's created out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that creation leads to wealth that is pretty much infinite. Whether you look at your world in health tech, or if you look at space, for example, SpaceX and other companies who are trying to explore space and do something to either get us to Mars or save the planet in any other way through space, didn't exist a couple decades ago before somebody came to the idea to do it again after the government slowed space stuff down.
Interesting.
Yep.
You know, you mentioned the pie. The pie is growing. Some might say, and Wall Street might say, that some of the pie growth is froth and a bubble that's forming. What's your take on Silicon Valley right now? Are we in a bubble or a recession or outstanding growth? What's your sort of take?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult situation. I listened to the equity podcast of TechCrunch this morning, and they actually said the whole venture capital world is in 2024, but AI is still in 2021, which means they're still getting AI valuations and AI rounds. 2021 valuations and 2021 rounds are still raised, but then the rest of the system is really slow because of high interest rates and the economic downturn that we have experienced. So I would say we are in a pretty natural result of the economy we saw during COVID, where a lot of money was put into the market. The economy did overheat. We increased the interest rates in order to cool down the economy a little bit. In that situation, if you have high interest rates and you can invest a lot of money in a very low risk way with pretty good interest, the vehicle of venture capital gets a little less interesting for those investors. So I would say everything we see right now in the venture capital market, but then also in any market that is investment heavy, is a very macroeconomical result from the past. AI itself, I wasn't a big fan of the crypto hype. I wasn't a big fan of the metaverse hype. I think the metaverse is going to happen, but it will take time to have products like Apple Vision Pro or the Meta products being fully rolled out into everyone's home. I think AI can be seen like a technology enabler more than a hype like the metaverse or crypto. I think the rise of AI that we saw end of 2022 gives us the opportunity to solve problems that we were not able to solve before. Are some of the startups that actually just are ChatGPT wrappers? They put a little homepage around the OpenAI API and made it possible to upload documents, got huge funding and got traction fast. I think those companies are at risk because of Microsoft Copilot, Google Duet AI, the OpenAI products. I wouldn't necessarily see the AI hype as a bubble. I would say 2024 is going to be crucial to deliver real value based on generative AI and based on the technology that we have now. If that is not happening, but then valuations and money is still growing into it, it might turn into a bubble. My personal feeling right now is that that is not yet the case.
Yeah, it's interesting. You brought up a lot of good points there. I think you're in terms of your comment about the access to capital. I think entrepreneurs have there's a lot of option value for entrepreneurs. Like we're seeing the floodgates have opened for angel investors, high net worth individuals, family offices, rolling funds with places like AngelList, right? So there's if you have a good product, you have a good AI moat, there chances are you'll find some source of capital.
Yeah.
Being a corporate VC myself, I'm somewhat partial. I think of us as it's not about the check size that we can deliver. It's about our operational horsepower, right? We as a mothership have a lot of technology infrastructure and engineering prowess that allows us to kind of roll up our sleeves and add some operational value. What's your sort of thought on corporate VCs playing in the AI sphere, right? You've got M12 investing in OpenAI, and what's your general thought process around that?
It depends, I think, on how the corporate venture capital fund is run, right? There are completely individual from the corporate, and then there are some who have to invest into fields that are interesting to the corporation, right? So if you look at an individual venture capital fund that is funded through a corporation, I think betting on AI companies, and especially Gen AI companies in this period of time, makes a lot of sense. Because in the end, the venture capital fund makes money through valuations going up and a successful exit with the company.
What? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, you can go anytime.
Well, generative AI, I keep hearing that term all the time. I hear it over and over and over again. I hear AI, and I think sometimes people use it in a different way. What is what does it mean to you? What is define sort of AI or generative AI? And then kind of give us a little bit of context about its application in healthcare. Because I've looked at several waves of AI over the last 15 years. 10 years ago, we were making investments in AI companies, but they were really big data companies. We just didn't call it AI because that was too scary of a term at the time. What does it mean to you and to the healthcare ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult question to answer because right now, as you said it in a very correct way, everything has the tag AI on it. If you look in Vegas 2 weeks ago, I think there wasn't a single slide that didn't have those two letters on it. Artificial intelligence in general is a group of words that includes anything from big data. The word learning is something that speaks for intelligence, right? But then there's the world of generative AI, where not only using algorithms that get better as they get trained, but you use these LLMs who can predict and then generate new content as well. So they can not only give you an output that is predefined as something you want, but they can help you generate. So I would say, to be honest, if you look at big corporations, 70 to 80% of AI is pretty much just putting AI on something that was called machine learning or big data before. In health tech, our RTLS product, I introduced it to you a couple of minutes ago as a very advanced machine learning product, right?
Yeah.
It's considered an AI product as well. We have it also marketed as an AI product because we have two different layers of machine learning. And what does machine learning do for us in this case? It gives us very, very high accuracy on our locationing system, and it gives us very low latency with minimum cloud cost. So that's where we use machine learning to be very efficient in what we deliver to our customer, right? In the Gen AI space, Siemens Enlighted, we currently do not have an offering customer facing. We use Gen AI a lot in our internal operations to become better and become more efficient in what we do as employees. So yeah, I think in health tech, AI itself, a lot of it is big data and machine learning. And I think Gen AI can really help in health tech to make these software products we see, for example, if you look at a hospital, to make them easier to engage with. I think that's something where LLMs and Gen AI can really help because they can ingest hundreds of documents and they can make it easy to interact with for the end user, whether that is a nurse or whether that is a user. For example, me as a Whoop user, I love the Whoop Coach, which is their Gen AI feature, so that I don't have to scroll through the app and find different dashboards. I can just ask the Whoop Coach, and they have an LLM, most likely, I would say GPT, OpenAI API, and they take my data and give me a way to interact with it in a very human way.
Interesting. How do you think that plays into people's psyche? Like, I remember looking at this one investment in a company that was essentially trying to automate continuous glucose monitoring and CCM coaching for diabetics. So you're
Yep.
looking at glucose levels, and then you're looking at medical records, and it was sort of automating the chronic care management protocol. So it would ask the patient questions, and obviously for disclosure reasons, you had to disclose this. You were talking to a machine. How do you think that plays into people's psyche these days? Do people engage as I guess the question is, can the AI algorithm, is it about a better quality AI algorithm that will create better engagement with the consumer? Or what's the secret sauce to making that as seamless as possible?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Do you think it is attractive for us to communicate with computers, machines, software the way we currently do? By typing on a small keyboard,
Yeah.
maybe go back to Windows 98.
Yeah.
Just imagine how you had to communicate with that machine.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
you say that that is a good way to communicate with the technology?
Well, it was, I kind of go back. I was talking to somebody about how I used to load computer games in MS-DOS. I mean, it was very manual. There were lots of steps, and you really had to kind of reinvent and create little workflows for yourself. And I think in general, I get very excited about, call it machine learning, which is taking what took 10 to 15 steps and truncating that down into smaller bites that are easier for the consumer.
Yeah.
And so I guess my response to your question would be, I'm generally okay with it if it makes a clinician more productive.
Yeah.
If I still need there to be a clinician on the other end of it. So in healthcare, I do not want to be talking just to a computer or an AI algorithm. I want to be interacting with a human component because I trust the human component, right? So
I would
there's got to be a hybrid environment.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with this, that in certain use cases, you need the human interaction, at least at the end, before you make a decision on something. What I do see is that generative AI gives us the huge potential to accelerate the way we interact with the technology. I think laptops and phones, they're just the beginning, right? We have these assistants like Siri and Alexa who weren't quite awesome in the last years. They can
Yeah.
be really, really great if that technology makes the move into that field. So my personal opinion is, if Gen AI can make the communication with technology a lot more human, humans will love it. And as an example for that, I would share a quick story about my mom. When I came to Germany 5 weeks ago, I started to pitch her to get a Tesla, and she didn't like the idea at all. Guess what? She was used, like the car manufacturers trained her to use a car in a certain way with hundreds of buttons,
Yeah.
with different things you got to do. And the new way of doing it with the Tesla was weird for her. A week after having the car, she was like, I never ever want to go back. This is so simple. The interaction with the car, the voice control works. No buttons, only two buttons on the steering wheel. So I think that is really the step. We are trained to interact with technology in a certain way, which is not human. And we have to be open that at some point we will interact with technology as if it was human. And that might be frightening at the beginning, but
Yeah.
I think this is where it's all going to go.
What does that mean? So I have to ask that question because I get what it means in a virtual care setting, right? Like that example we both were just talking about, and I just recalled I looked up the name of the company that I was thinking of. It was a company called Lark, and
Mhm.
Pegasus Tech Ventures made an investment in that company years ago. And it was, essentially like, hey, coaches are expensive. It costs a lot of money to provide chronic care management to a large population, but we can use AI to do just as good of a job. And it was really like it was testing the outcomes of the AI bot in relation to a group of coaches. It was all about outcomes, which I think it's an important thing to consider, because that's what healthcare is all about. But it was counterintuitive to me, and I'm curious to understand what you mean by the technology makes us more human. Because when I'm taking the train and I see everybody in their iPad or in their whatever, their tablet, right? Or not tablet, iPhone, right? And they're just sitting there glued to the screen, playing computer games, checking out their Facebook profiles or their X accounts. To me, it feels like people are engaging with the person right next to them through the machine, right? So what do you mean by technology allows us to be more human?
Yeah. Let's be honest. That's my personal opinion, but I think the phone, the iPhone,
Yep. Yep.
the iPad, or any tablet or any laptop, that's just the beginning for us to in technology. And it has been a very long time now that we were interacting with technology in that way.
Yeah.
And another personal opinion, I have very, very, very high hopes for the Apple Vision Pro device. I strongly believe in the vision of spatial computing.
Yeah.
Not want to have my laptop and look at that tiny little 2D thing and being on Zoom call all day. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I would have this chat with you either in person, or if we interact through technology, we could meet in Yosemite National with our Vision Pro, and we say, let's have this podcast on Half Dome.
Yeah.
Right? Add a little box that you can sit in, and you get a little breeze and something, and you feel like your brain will think you're in Yosemite having this conversation.
Yeah.
So absolutely right. I feel sorry for everyone who loses the contact to the real world because of technology. And if you look at airplanes, if you look at trains, that is the case, 100%. I do think that we will have a much clearer border between the virtual world and the real world. And I highly, highly love what Apple presented when they launched the Vision Pro. They launched this device that takes you into the virtual world, let's say for 8 hours a day. You live in there, you work in there, you meet your friends.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, they presented their new approach to health, getting people outdoors, running. And I think this is the future where the virtual world, and let's call it the metaverse, will become very attractive.
Yep. Yep.
You have to be disciplined, and you have to get out of it, and you have to go out and play tennis and go for a hike in the real world. I always compare it to the rise of food availabilities in the past decades. Food became amazing and it was available everywhere, right? Most people, they didn't have the discipline on how to act on that availability. And we got the obesity crisis from it. Other people are able to enjoy the availability of food and enjoy the quality and enjoy all the options, but then they make an active decision to go for the healthier options and stay healthy. And I think it's going to be the exact same thing. I can't wait to have a clear border. I want to be in the virtual world when I'm in the virtual world, but then as I get out, I want my wife, my kids, I want them to be in the real world with me. And I think it's an absolute disrespect that we are in both worlds at the same time using our phone. And I hope that that is going away through spatial computing.
I love it, Phil. This is actually very inspiring. So I think we're in this weird kind of, we've taken this detour in technology over the last 20, 30 years, where I think it's a temporary detour. We are arguably more far apart from each other because we're engaging in a virtual sense, but eventually the technology will get so good that it'll come back and converge to how it was 150 years from now, when we didn't have any technology whatsoever other than, basic survival technology, right? It's the digital world has, I would say, arguably distanced ourselves now. I mean, we're connected through Zoom and all these other things, But until the technology is able to truly read and write into the experiences that we're having, right?
Yeah.
Cognition. I
Yeah.
think we're I think it's we're gonna look back at this time and say it was really worth it,
Absolutely.
and I think we'll get there, hopefully in the next 50 to 60 years, right? If you believe
Right.
in
Silicon Valley.
it right here. That's right. And what you described reminded me of what Eric Yan said at the Qualcomm CEO Summit in 2000. I think it was 2018, 2019, when so we were at Qualcomm. We were investors in Zoom, and that was a big blowout exit. It's probably the most successful portfolio company, the best return on investment that Qualcomm ever had, and that's all public record, and I can share that. But somebody in the audience asked Eric, what's his prediction for kind of 2050, 2060, and his response was, we'll be on a Zoom call, but we'll feel like we're in person anywhere we want in the world, and we'll feel like we're able to shake each other's hands, right?
Yeah.
So it's really we're distancing ourselves temporarily, but eventually we're going to converge, and it's going to be an exciting time. So
Thomas, I couldn't agree more with that statement. I am more than convinced that this is going to happen, and I'm just happy to live and to only be 31 years old and have a lot of years in front of me. One example I wanted to share on something cool I did over Christmas, which is already possible. I lost my dad in 2021,
my
and
condolences. Yeah, my condolences.
and I was playing around with ChatGPT, and I had this idea of how cool would it be if I could communicate with him again, or anybody else could communicate with a person you lost. So I went to the GPT builder, which now the GPT store launched, which is like the app store for customized AI on OpenAI. And I built a GPT that is like a warm person that communicates with you and gets trained on WhatsApp chats that you had with the person you lost, and then communicates exactly like the person.
Wow.
That is we can share the link to that GPT if anyone wants to try it out. All you need is a pro account with OpenAI. But what you pretty much do is you go in there, you download your WhatsApp chat or your Apple Messenger chat, and you upload that TXT file, and it takes a minute, and the AI trains based on that, and you can communicate with that person again. It knows everything you ever communicated, and it can help you. It can guide you exactly the way that person did. So I like to say I'm able to chat with my dad again and get recommendations on life choices. And I tested it with a couple of friends who lost people they love, and it is so real that people actually have mental breakdowns being able to get these people again. Now, this is just text. Take this a couple years into the future where you up pictures and there's an avatar of that person, and you're in the virtual world communicating with that person again. That is power that we're experiencing in the rise of AI right now. And that's where it's leading towards. And that's also why I think this is not a bubble. This is a real technology enabler that we're seeing in the last 14 months.
Imagine, I'll take it one step further just because I'm a Black Mirror fan. And I love this idea, by the way. And you're gonna have to send me the link to this ChatGPT feature, because I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Imagine our brains are essentially a solid state drive, right? Imagine being able to extract that in preparation for the afterlife, right? And this is where things just get really far out, right? I mean, this is where we get into eternal living and just uploading our brain to somewhere else, because that's essentially who we are. Our personalities are everything above here, right? The rest is reproducible or recreatable, right? It's kind of interesting. This is the part of the podcast where I ask you for your predictions on 2050. But when do you think we're going to get to where what you just described is a reality, right? You're able to upload video footage and create avatars. When do you think we're going to get there?
2030.
2030? Wow. Okay.
If you look at
I'm more pessimistic, but but I like it. I like it.
What Apple Vision Pro is promising is that You upload pictures and it scans your face while you're in a Zoom call. And I would have this thing on, but you would see an AI avatar of myself in this call right now, looking completely real. Combine that with what I just described, and you can meet the person as an AI avatar in Yosemite, go for a hike with that person, a virtual hike, and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And the person responds exactly like the person you lost. So I think it's not far away if you combine the pieces of the puzzle.
Interesting. I think the technology will get there. To your point, I think the technology will get there by 2030. Presumably, the consumer is going to be the business model, right? I mean, that's who's going to want that type of experience. Is that your prediction, or do you think B2B is going to be a powerhouse there?
I think first B2B will be the powerhouse.
Okay.
Vision Pro device. If you look at a business curriculum or an MBA, it's called skimming pricing. They start with a very high price point to get the premium users. And I would say those are executives in tech, venture capitalists, angel investors, partners in management consulting, investment bankers, right?
Okay.
They spend $4,000 on that device, early adopters. And then there will be cheaper options as we move down that price point and the maturity of the product. And then I think the B2B world will be first. Why? Business expenses for travel are still extreme for companies. What if you can just meet your people and have an offsite in the metaverse? You're doing an offsite and you're actually having fun, right? You don't do a class in Zoom that sucks. You actually go to places and play games with them in the metaverse that are fun. And then that you take it off and you spend the evening with your kids and your family. And that saves the company $100,000 for a small offsite, millions of dollars if you look at big offsites. So I would say that B2B and our world of hybrid work is going to push the technology first. And then the individual piece, especially with the rise of Gen Z, who are already playing those games and spending time in the virtual world, as soon as they hit the point where they're willing to pay for these devices, I think we will see the full acceleration. So it's time to get a beautiful home because you will spend a lot of time at home. Again.
Yeah. That's right. I think COVID was an accelerant for all these things, right? Gotta stay home and appreciate the technology around you.
Yeah.
To me, kind of anchoring this back on the theme of the podcast, right? I think this is a technology podcast, but we focus on health tech concepts.
Yeah.
And to me, based on the ChatGPT feature that you described and the future state that you painted, it seems to me that AI's biggest impact is going to be on behavioral health. That's my prediction. I mean, it's going to impact our relationships with ourselves, with the people around us, our family, right? Any other predictions? I mean, are you predicting anything in AI robotics or AI based virtual care?
I think AI is going to have another, and this I think that's really my closing note. AI is going to have a huge impact on how enterprises function, how decisions, how executives run their companies. I think there's going to be a huge disruption from all the basic functions like marketing, customer support, sales. We see all these AI tools and all those software tools, but then also how our economy functions. Based on limitless intelligence, there will be a new era of, in my opinion, efficiency and a lower rate of mistakes. Human failure will be much lower as soon as we have the right AI software tools to manage and to steer companies.
Amazing. Philipp Wehn, such a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you, man.
Where can people follow your work?
I would suggest connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. I also have a YouTube channel called Phil's Innovation Shuttle. And I'm actually launching a podcast on AI only with executive perspectives on AI, executives who are not specifically in AI. So we're talking
that's going to be fun.
in non-tech industries and their perspective on artificial intelligence in the next year. So LinkedIn is my platform of choice. Feel free to reach out. Thank you, Thomas, for the invitation again. It was a lot of fun. I saw it coming. Every conversation with you is a lot of fun. And keep the podcast going.
Thank you so much. For all you listeners out there, Tom Clues, thank you so much for listening. This is Health Tech Invest, where we promote great people, great entrepreneurs, and help you spark innovation. Thanks so much, Phil.
Thank you.